Welcome to Behavioral Grooves. My name is Kurt Nelson.
And I'm Tim Houlihan. Behavioral Grooves is the podcast that shares insights from behavioral science researchers from the fields of psychology, neuroscience, mathematics, sociology, economics, and anthropology, and then we discuss how that research gets applied in the real world.
It's also the podcast where we talk to business and nonprofit leaders about how they are expertly applying behavioral science to their work. Our episodes offer fresh ideas on how the application of behavioral science can improve your work and life. And in this episode, we're sort of mixing both.
Right. In this episode, we are sharing a discussion we recorded with Chris Nave, the Associate Director of the Master of Behavioral and Decision Sciences program at the University of Pennsylvania. We caught up with Chris at the NoBeC conference at UPenn. NoBeC stands for the Norms and Behavioral Change Conference that his program sponsored for their students, and it brought together some of the brightest researchers in the field.
This program is in its third year with 75 students from 12 countries. These students are interested in applying the principles of behavioral science in a variety of fields. They bring insights from their work history in restaurants, fire stations, small businesses, and global corporations. The program that Chris runs emphasizes three core qualities: qualitative, application, and theory. So everyone leaves UPenn with an understanding of what it means to be a behavioral scientist.
And all the dots got connected when we realized that Kurt and I were going to be in Philadelphia for our 100th episode celebration at the same time Chris was hosting the NoBeC conference. Chris was generous enough to invite us to attend the conference and to record some conversations with some of the researchers.
So this is the keystone episode for that series that we recorded at NoBeC. We have several more episodes to publish that feature interviews with some of the presenters at the conference, psychologists, political scientists, economists, and behavioral researchers that we met there. We are grateful to Chris for being such a generous host and to his colleagues who were generous enough to share their time and their insights.
Yeah, and by the way, we had a great time.
Oh, yeah, we did.
We should also let you know that occasionally you might hear some background noise.
Blah, 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 blah.
It's kind of like that. But we recorded these discussions on the outskirts, like in an alcove in the main gathering area. And we just hope it's not distracting.
So with that, please sit back with a NoBeC cocktail. Isn't that a mix of all sorts of different concoctions?
With just a twitch of psychology built in.
Just a twitch of psychology. All right, so please sit back with a NoBeC cocktail and enjoy our conversation with Chris Nave.
Okay, we are here at the Norms and Behavioral Sciences workshop.
Yes.
Right, within the master's program that you oversee. Can you give us just an overview of what's happening here?
Yeah, so this is a NoBeC, Norms of Behavior Change workshop, our second year that we're doing this, and it's bringing together a lot of brilliant academics from all over the world and some practitioners, people in the field doing field research, kind of motivated particularly around social norms, so collective behavior change. So we hear a lot about nudges and individual kind of based change, and this is a focus on kind of the understudied collective behavior change, norms, social norms, and so bring people together to better understand kind of the cutting edge work that's out there, both in the field and in the world in the lab.
Okay, so doesn't that sound like sociology?
There are elements of sociology in behavioral science which are definitely worth taking care of. I'm looking at using some of their frameworks and tools, but it's behavioral economics is the kind of the main driver. I would say psychology. There's a lot of elements of psychology here as well to kind of better understand what's going on.
But you're bringing in interdisciplinary components. So you have
Absolutely.
Political scientists, you have other aspects. So why bringing in that interdisciplinary component?
No one field owns the research and understanding of human behavior and how we make decisions. And so we need to take and sample the best of from all these different disciplines. We often don't talk to each other on a day-to-day basis, academics in particular, and we use our own terminologies and words that mean the same thing but have different words and And so being able to come together from all these different worlds and say, oh, well, I actually do that too, and this is what I call it, so that we can better understand behavior is super important. We're really all about kind of creating sustainable behavior change is kind of, I think, that ultimate end goal.
We see what I think is particularly interesting is watching an economist make a presentation and have an anthropologist ask a question, and then a political scientist ask a question, and then a psychologist ask a question, all still driving around solving the problem.
Yeah.
But again, with different perspectives coming in, which again can spark some of those ideas, which I was fascinated. Yesterday there was a question, and I'm like going, I would have never thought of that, and it was because it was a political scientist that was bringing bringing her perspective into this economic presentation that was there, and going, all right, my background is economics and psychology, but not political science, and it was fascinating for me.
Yeah, I think workshops like this and kind of the behavioral science movement in general is really, really exciting. And I mean, think about it. If you're a grant agency or a funding agency or you're a company, would you rather pour a lot of money into one specific discipline to solve an approach? Or would you rather have teams of people from all different kinds of trainings and backgrounds to better solve a problem? It's such an easier sell to a funding agency or to a business. And being able to do that, kind of walk the walk by bringing people together like that, it's an exciting thing to do.
So is that an underlying goal of the Masters in Behavioral Science?
I think one of the goals is really just kind of breaking down those academic silos and making sure that we understand how we make decisions and how we can create sustainable behavior change. And I think the end product of that is we can be better informing our policy that our policymakers are making. We can save a few dollars in corporations. We can make people's lives a little bit better. And if we can do that with an interdisciplinary lens, I think we're contributing. We're trying to help.
So tell us a little bit about the program. What are you? Who are the people that are coming to the program? Who are the people that you have teaching the program? And what are the research kind of areas that you're focused on?
Sure. So we're relatively new. We're in our third year. We've had our third cohort of students is with us right now. We have 75 students in this particular cohort, and they're coming from a wide variety of backgrounds. They're coming from 12 different countries from all over the world, from 15 different academic majors. Anything from, we get a lot of economists, people from economic backgrounds in psychology, but we're getting PPE, homeland security, biomedical engineering. We have firefighters and physicians and people opening up restaurants for celebrity chefs in our cohort. The people that
it's just I'm sorry, that's just like so far. You've just really stretched the scope of the universe.
That's right. Yeah, we got a little bit of everything, and again, they want to better understand behavior. They're curious, intellectually curious. They feel maybe that they don't have the skill sets needed to better inform either a company they work for or better understand the kind of behavior change process. So they might be the ones that are listening to a lot of podcasts like what you guys are doing, or reading a lot of popular books, and they have questions and they want to help connect the dots between what they're reading and seeing. And so we can help them by providing frameworks. We have them take judgments and decisions classes, so they're understanding biases and heuristics. We have them taking norms and nudges classes, so that they're understanding kind of those processes. We're getting a lot of professional development. We make sure that they're exposed to frameworks that a lot of companies out there, like Ideas 42 and Rare and the Behavioral Insights team have. And we're showing them, we're unpacking what they're doing, and so that they have more of these skill sets in their toolbox to bring forward. We have three components: quantitative, applied, and theoretical.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that our students are coming well-rounded in all of those. So we're not training our students to become quantitative data scientists, but we want them to have an appreciation for it. We want them to be able to talk about what these data science teams are, and many companies have gone all in on big data.
Oh, yeah.
We want them to be able to talk about and analyze and maybe show the best graph how best to visualize this. What's the one-page executive summary on all of the rich mounds of data that people are sitting on?
Even if they're just going to open a celebrity chef restaurant.
Oh yeah, that's incredibly important for these chefs.
No, I'm being sarcastic, but I get it. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to do that pretty much in every walk of life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So like our firefighter example, he was kind of tasked with kind of create additional diversity in his firehouse.
Okay.
So firehouses are very family oriented, second generation, third generation firefighters. It's really hard to get diversity in there. And so when he was tasked with increasing the diversity of his firehouse, he felt really inept, not able to do so without the right tools. And so he started looking around and he found our program and was like, wow, behavioral science, getting a kind of a lens, I might be able to bring back, help design interventions or training programs that might better bring forth a more diverse firefighting unit. That's a very noble and unique cause. And so part of my, one of my favorite parts about being in this position as an associate director is I get to read their personal statements. Why Penn? Why a Master of Behavioral Decision Science? And there's so many different reasons. You're not reading the same thing to make more money. You're getting a lot of variation in response, and that's really exciting.
So we talked a little bit about what the cohort is going to do. Where do you see the role of behavioral science in the corporate world or the work world in the coming years?
Yeah, so I mean, it's exciting that our program is housed in the School of Arts and Sciences. So we're not just in the business school. We're not just evaluating policy in the policy world. We get to span all these different areas. And so I think that really helps us try to assist in the kind of the foundation of this behavioral science and what it's meant to do. And so again, at the broad level, trying to understand and implement behavioral change. So interventions, everybody is looking internally and externally. How can we make our company or corporation better? How can we improve the culture and the satisfaction of our employees? How can we run a more efficient company? And you may get it through an organizational behavior lens or any one specific lens, but having behavioral science trained students in your company, they're going to be the bridge between all these different groups in a particular company to better understand what's going on.
Well, and you talked about, you have that three focuses: quantitative, right, application, and then theory. And so in an organization, bringing those data scientists together and figuring out how to actually apply some experimentation based on some good theory, bringing all three of those pieces together, I think could be very valuable.
Absolutely.
Well, we have this all this research to say that the diversity in teams delivers better results.
That's right.
Yet corporations seem to be behind the curve on this. I'm not seeing a lot of it in the corporate world. Are you hearing feedback from any of your corporate colleagues that there is more diversity in teams, that they want more perspectives, that they want more insights from different disciplines around?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have yet to have a meeting with an executive that has really not been curious about behavioral science. I mean, I think almost everybody has some level of curiosity about it and what it might be able to do. And when we talk about things like translating what your data science teams are doing or finally utilizing all of that data that you're just sitting on and doing something meaningful with it, they get excited. And so if you can package what behavioral science can do, if you can articulate it effectively, I think everyone wants in at some level on this. Now, when you get into the structurally, how do you incorporate them in the company? Do you have a behavioral science team? Where does it get located? There's that gap. You get a lot of enthusiasm, and then you have this now what? And so that's
and why is that? Why do you think there's a big gap at that point?
I think so. I was talking with Piyush Tantia, the Chief Innovation Officer at Ideas 42, and we're talking about how behavioral science is still in this wild west phase.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that are fascinated by it, or they're calling themselves behavioral scientists. When you kind of look under the hood, there's not a whole lot of training or benchmarks in place for calling yourself behavioral scientist. If you read Nudge, you can call yourself some people call themselves a behavioral scientist.
Really?
Well, Tim isn't. Oh, never mind.
Oh, you're looking at me on that one. I didn't finish it.
Oh, there you go. Anyway.
There you go.
So, all right. So it's the wild, wild west. Things are going fast. They're going crazy. And so where is it going? Where is behavioral science going? Where are your students? Where do you think they're going to end up? I mean, a couple years from now with the current cohort that's in here, but 5 years from now when you get that next cohort that's coming through, what are they going to be doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think that's why it's so important to bring all of these different people together. So I think our program and having workshops like this can bring together chief behavioral officers, behavioral innovation directors, people that are in design, to really share, like, what have they been doing, what's been successful, what's been challenging, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, wasting a lot of money, time, and resources. Currently, our students are going into positions of becoming strategists and consultants and analysts in a wide variety of fields. They're doing the Ideas 42, kinds of companies. They're doing the Big Four consulting companies. Yep. They're going into Microsoft and LinkedIn and MasterCard and Visa and all these different domains. Behavioral finance and health is another big area. I think that the market is really kind of quite explosive for these types of behavioral jobs. What we need to do is be responsible about the growth and make sure that we're sampling from middle management, upper management, from entry level, and kind of bringing people together to better figure out how we can be successful in creating interventions and better understanding behavior.
Well, and to that degree, you're bringing the academic rigor to this, so it isn't somebody who's claiming to be a behavioral scientist because they've read Nudge
or almost finished Nudge.
Or
host a podcast.
And host a podcast.
Hey, you're getting a little close on there, Chris.
To that degree, you're bringing that component. Am I saying component again? I'm sorry, folks. You're bringing that perspective in and saying we are trying to take it from the wild, wild west into something that has some rigor behind it, that has some actual learning and as you said, frameworks to apply this in a real world situation that's actually going to drive some efficiencies and some ultimately end results. So am I interpreting that correctly?
Exactly. And I think with our students coming from so many different backgrounds, watching them kind of proliferate, go all over, and really start helping create these units and these having these approaches within the companies is going to stimulate some interesting conversations, and I think it will ultimately create more behavioral units. Not just in policy, not just embedded in government, but really across the board, which is really, really
well. It's
important.
been interesting for us because we have talked about this. Is that we see behavior science being integrated into government with these various different units, into some of the non-governmental agencies through Ideas 42, working with all these different places and different things, and even inside of organizations. But it has been mostly consumer focused at applying behavioral science and how do we get consumers to spend more time on our website and to dig and to buy in various different pieces, and we've seen less of it actually being applied internally inside organizations focused in on their employees, where again you can take some of these insights and apply behavioral science lens to that and say, hey, let's make this workplace more engaging for our employees because we understand the human dynamics within this. Are you seeing anything from that perspective inside of any of the work that your people are looking to do or that you're hearing companies are wanting?
Yeah, I think the fact that our program emphasizes a lot the kind of collective behavioral change model, the social norms model, it translates really nicely into organizational development. This kind of the structure. If you're talking about inclusivity and diversity at the workplace, these are topics that have been studied, but only through specific lenses, or they've been too atheoretical.
Yeah.
And so I think having somebody like Christina Bicchieri, our faculty director, who's been studying this this in development for so long. She's been going into various countries and trying to understand it through different lenses. But she can now bring that from there into companies and organizations to better understand what's going on there. Interventions almost invariably don't work as well as they were originally designed. And maybe we can do a little bit better by bringing in these diverse components of behavioral science and social norms and collective behavior change. And so if we can get a little bit better and strategically by having additional tools at our disposal, then it's a big advantage for everybody.
Well, you brought in the firefighter perspective and bringing in that
talk about diverse,
diversity component. So I think that's exciting. I think that's where we need to go. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but that's where I think behavioral science needs to push beyond the wild, wild west, but also into looking at things internally within organizations to make work more engaging, inclusive, diverse for all of those various aspects.
Yeah. Chris, let's talk about your playlist. We here at Behavioral Grooves, we always talk about music, and so we want to know what are you listening to these days? I'm sure that the past couple of weeks have just been crazy getting ready for this conference, but you might still be listening to music. And what are you listening to?
Oh boy, we have a 4.5-year-old at home, and so we're very careful in what we listen to these days. But we have quite an eclectic. So I mean, we have one of
no more gangster rap around the house.
No more gangster rap around the house.
Okay.
Yeah, those days are gone, unfortunately.
Has it been replaced
acid
by
metal? We don't have that anymore. Yeah, it's too bad, right?
Yeah, Baby Shark.
We're thankfully out of that phase.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Okay.
But yeah, with a 4-year-old, boy, we got an eclectic mix, man. We're doing a lot of 80s rock and going on here, and The Cure. My son loves The Cure. He loves.
Wait, did you say your son loves The Cure?
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
So excited, right? You and your son.
It was a proud moment.
It is awesome.
Yeah. He like air guitars the Red Hot Chili Peppers in the back. Like he'll play Dark Necessities, which is a great kind of it's not even a popular song really, and he loves that thing. And so, but then he's taking dance right now as a 4-year-old. He decided soccer may not be right. He thought that the girls in the main room were having a lot of fun out there, and maybe he's going to give it a try. And so his routine is to Miley Cyrus Party in the USA.
Oh my gosh! So
it is quite a he's listening to this Greatest Showman. I mean, my gosh, we're doing it all in the Nave household.
It is funny with kids. I remember my daughter when she was 4 or 5. We would do this thing where I would play my old iPad on the speaker upstairs, and they'd run around and jump on the bed and do all this thing. And it was AFI because it was the first on the playlist, and AFI came up, and it's like this 80s heavy rock kind of coming in.
But they loved it.
Oh my gosh! And she just knows. And to this day, you can put AFI on, and she just kind of gets all jumpy about it. And that's not the music that they listen to, but it's we get them trained.
That's
really.
right. That's right. Yeah. It's been fun seeing like music through his eyes, like getting that level of appreciation. So that's something that my dad kind of instilled with me. Like when he would give me some of his records and CDs, it would make me listen to the whole thing from beginning to end with a speaker, headphones on, and that just getting appreciation for all different kinds of music, and watching him ask Alexa to put on Vivaldi for the Four Seasons, and then practice his Miley Cyrus dance routine. It's really,
and then air guitar to Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And then air guitar to Red Hot Chili Peppers. We're doing something right.
That's
I'd say you are. I'd say you're doing a lot right, actually. I think that's pretty amazing. One other question about music. Music when you work or not?
Good question. It's usually that transition stage for me. I mean, it's my stress release. It's before and after work. It's after work, a long day. Not so much during work, I think. I think I have to be in the zone for doing some of the things that I'm doing, and to really appreciate. I have a lot of emotional connections to the music. It makes me feel a certain way, and that can get in the way from my work. So yeah, it's usually
we ask this question a lot, and Tim and I, if you've listened, we have different perspectives on this. And
for
Tim's
a personal application.
Yeah, personal applications. And I listen. So, but
it's like the coffee shop routine. Like some people can get a lot of work done in coffee shops. I'm too busy fascinated by everything going on around me. I just want to pay attention to it all.
And yet there is a whole group of people that all they want to do is go to work in a coffee shop.
Yeah, and they can get really good work done. I can't do it.
Which is really interesting because I can listen to music and work, but I go into a coffee shop and I'm just like, ding,
Too
ding.
much.
There's somebody and there's somebody's talking behind me, and all of a sudden I'm kind of leaning back and I want to listen in. What are they saying? And then the person's walking over there. And I can't do that.
Oh, I would never wear those shoes.
Yeah.
Well, you might not, but I would. All right. Well, Chris, thank you. This has been extremely interesting, and I applaud what you guys are doing here, because I think it is a necessary thing, and I think there is that element of moving beyond the wild, wild west and bringing some of this interdisciplinary focus to behavioral science and really taking that to the next level. So thank you.
Yeah,
I think the world needed this, and I'm really glad that UPenn has created it.
So thanks. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and thanks. Yeah, and just thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate you taking time. I know with all that you've got going today, this is very kind of you to spend some time with us.
We love supporting behavioral grooves and a great podcast and behavioral science.
Well said.
All right. Well, with that, we're cutting it off now. Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure.
Welcome to our grooving session, where Tim and I groove on what we learned from our behavioral group's interview, have a free-flowing discussion, and whatever else comes into our normed and behavioral changed brains.
We are a little bit of norming and behavioral change, aren't we?
We are a lot of norming and behavioral change.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was very fascinating to be there.
Oh, I loved it. It was great.
I loved being the dumbest person in the room. It
was my gosh. No, I think I got that honor because you've got the PhD, so at least you could count yourself among the PhDs in the room, which there were many.
There were many, and just the conversations that were going on at the conference were just that was amazing to me. Again, talking through, the different applications of some of the research they found, but then, how the research was being conducted, various different pieces. It was just enthralling, invigorating, and all sorts of other fun.
It absolutely was.
Words.
So let's focus just a little bit on our conversation with Chris. What was one of the takeaways that you had from our conversation with Chris?
So, and this is something that we've talked about in the past, but it really hit home with how Chris brought together the department that he's working in, right? That it is a cross-disciplinary science, that behavioral science isn't a tunnel, right? It's not a single emphasis of saying you have to have this type of degree. Behavioral science is broader, and it brings together people who are focused in on why we do what we do. It's our podcast, right? It's the understanding human behavior. And so when you look at that means that you're taking, obviously, psychologists. You're taking sociologists, social psychologists. You are taking economists, because they're looking at why we do things from that economic perspective. You're looking at anthropologists who study the historical part about it. But, they're bringing in all these others too, political
scientists, right?
They had a mathematician. They had, a number of others that were part of that group. And so it really hit home for me that I think this is not only the way that we've been thinking about it, but I think it's the way that the discipline is moving forward.
We got a big dose of this when we were at Carnegie Mellon, because the social and decision sciences department there is filled with astrophysicists, mathematicians,
astrophysicists,
and as well as economists and psychologists and people like that. And I love that department specifically has that interdisciplinary mix, or that diversity of backgrounds, because people like Linda Babcock and George Lowenstein were at the table when the term behavioral economics was created in 1997. They were literally at the table saying, with people like Danny Kahneman and Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein and Colin Cameron, they're actually saying, well, we should call this behavioral economics. And yet today, what we see is that behavioral sciences is much more encompassing than just economic decision making.
Right.
It's much bigger than that. The influences on the way that we decide and the way that we behave are much bigger than just a little bit of economics and a little bit of psychology.
Which is what I think Chris and the department are trying to do.
Absolutely.
Here. I mean, obviously, there's a huge focus on social norms within the UPenn department and various different things,
mind-blowing.
which is fascinating to me. But bringing in all of the different backgrounds and focuses for the conference, right? But also then in the student body that they are attracting, and all of those different students with the different histories. They talk about the person who was working in the fire station and needed to get, put together a diversity program, and he wanted to bring in the actual science behind how that would work.
Or the guy that's opening a restaurant for celebrity chefs.
Yes. All of these great backgrounds from students who are now going to take that out into the real world, which gets to my second piece of the insight here. For me, at least, it was this idea that behavioral science is a Nancean kind of discipline to a certain degree. It is relatively new, and yes, it is being applied inside organizations, but it has a long way to go before it gets to scale, before it grows into this element that people are using it effectively inside of organizations, not just in the consumer-facing side of organizations.
As a nascent field, it is growing. It's growing quickly. It's spreading. It's certainly spreading quickly, but it is still small and needs a lot more attention. And what I love about what Chris and his program are doing is engaging practitioners, bringing these thought leaders in to train the students, to send them back out into the field, to send them back into organizations. And one of the things that occurred to me is, like, I can imagine a future at some point in the future, 10 years, 20 years in the future, when behavioral science just becomes part of the norm in the way that we talk about HR policies, or the way that we talk about marketing campaigns, or developing user experience, UX type programs. That the behavioral science will be a core part of our conversation.
Right, and I loved, he had a quote, and I'll probably mess this up, but I think the end product is that we can be better informing our policymakers.
Yes.
So it's not saying that every leader inside the organization needs to be a behavioral science expert, but they have this core group of people who are well informed and educated and understand the science, so that they can give informed information and counsel to the people who are making the ultimate decisions.
Yeah, Chris said, talking about unpacking the theories for the purpose of helping these students bring these skill sets in their toolbox when they're at work.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, so I think all of that tied together really just make this insightful for me.
I have a quick musical question for you. Quick one.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're on the road, do you listen to music that's different from what you listen to at home, or the same?
No, it's the same. I am a boring, same old.
Just the same old
guy.
shit.
Well, I change up my musical. I don't listen to just one genre, but I don't like go, ooh, I'm going to listen to jazz now that I'm out on the road, which I don't listen to at home either. So I don't do that. That's not one of those things that I do.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Just curious.
Do you?
I feel like there's some liberty that goes along with being on the road, that I'll indulge myself, because the amount of time that I have to spend just listening is sometimes expanded when I'm traveling.
Okay.
So I'll indulge in listening to. You and I listen to a lot of podcasts when we're on airplanes.
Yes.
And to be able to sit down and have an hour and a half or 2 hours, or to listen to just podcasts, it's kind of cool. But I also like to do that for music.
So do you try to do something local to the area that you're visiting? So in other words, when you go to Nashville, do you listen to more Nashville music?
As sort of a priming thing?
I don't know. I'm just wondering. Do you try to find the local artists that you listen to?
If I have planned a show, if I'm going to see some live music in those areas, definitely.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just random.
It's just random.
Yeah.
We're just random folks. That's what happens. All right. Yeah. Okay, so listeners, please stay tuned because after the stinger, we have a new segment that we're doing that summarizes and talks about, a groove idea for you. So stay tuned for that, and thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Kurt, and this is a summary and groove idea for today's episode with Chris Nave. Chris talked a lot about the program at UPenn and some of the insights he's seen from his time with the program. There are two key takeaways from this. First, behavioral science is really a cross-discipline field. It's a field that looks at human behavior and why we do what we do, which crosses many genres. Second, behavioral science is young, and it impacts are only starting to be seen in the corporate world. The more programs like UPenn's that are building the skill set and knowledge to integrate these learnings into organizations, the more we will see companies embracing behavioral science. Okay, so now let's talk about your groove idea for the week. What? You don't know what the groove idea is? Well, this is our new segment where we will leave you with a thought, a question, an action for you to explore over the week that we think will help you make a positive difference in your life. Okay, so this week's groove idea. Take a close look at a team that you are on, whether that be at work, in sports, or some other aspect of your life. How much diversity is there on that team? Diversity both in gender and race, but also in age, in background, in knowledge, in perspective. Your groove action is to think, what type of diversity would you add to the team that would make it better? So again, what type of diversity would you add to the team to make it better? Think about that and think about how that would impact your team overall. Okay, that's it for this episode. But before I go, I want to let you know that Tim and I produce a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for on Behavioral Grooves that highlights some of our reading suggestions, listening ideas, and of course some fun behavioral science. It's a short read once a month that might get you thinking or trying something new, so check it out. And as always, if you like these episodes, share them with a friend, leave a review, or give us a big 5-star rating. That goes a long, 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 long way in helping us expand this community. With that, thanks for listening.